Hi, it's Cindy. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3, the modifiers. Modifiers are reported along with the CPT code to indicate that something's happened that modifies the service of the procedure but does not change its basic definition. They are 2-character codes. When you hear lectures about them or read about them in the textbook, you're going to see a dash that separates the 5-character CPT code from the 2-character modifier, such as the example there, 49520-50. The dash is not used when you're filing a claim or in most electronic coding programs. In that case, you would see 49529-50. Everyone knows the first 5 characters are the CPT code, and the last 2 would be the modifier. Payers have different rules regarding modifiers, and it really is up to the coder or the biller to know each payer's specifications, what will and will not trigger an edit or a denial. Different sets of modifiers apply to different services and settings. Some are specific to physicians, some are specific to hospital outpatient. So if you read the definition of the modifier, it really tells you in what case, in which circumstance that modifier might be used. For example, -25 is used only with evaluation and management E&M codes, and those are codes when the physician is providing a service. Modifiers can decrease payment or they can increase payment. It really depends on the modifier. When you are taking a test with me in this course, when you're working in the real world, you have your code book as your reference. So the modifiers are used inside the front cover of the CPT code book with all the definitions. It's short. The one in the front cover, those are short definitions. The full definition or description is in Appendix A in the back of the CPT code book. They're also found in Figure 3.1 in their coding textbook. And Level 2 national codes, there's some listed on the back of the front cover, but they're also found in their entirety on the CMS website. There's other uses for modifiers that we won't spend a lot of time on in this class. I just want you to know about them. One is Modifier 33, which is preventive services, but it's preventive services under certain criteria. So that is on page 50 in your coding textbook. Category 2 modifiers have to do with performance measurement and different tracking there. The physical status modifiers are only used with the anesthesia, CPT codes. And then there are CMS guidelines for Medicare transmittals that are very specific. So these, as I said, we will not be talking about much in this class. I just want you to know what they are. So when a coder is trying to decide whether or not to use a modifier, you ask yourself 2 questions. Will the modifier add more information regarding the anatomic site? For example, is it left or right side of the body? Is it which toe? Is it a toe or a finger? And if so, which is it? The next question is, will a modifier help to eliminate the appearance of duplicate billing or the appearance of unbundling? Because of the way the global package and the way procedures are packaged by the insurance companies for payment, if a doctor does something that looks like it's not quite following that guideline or that rule by the payer, you can have a denial. So the doctor is trying to avoid the denial by explaining ahead of time what happened and why it appears as though it was unbundled. Now, of course, the doctor's not choosing the modifiers, the coder's choosing the modifiers. What the doctor's doing is providing you the documentation so that you know which modifier to choose. Let's look at some case studies, and these are taken from Chapter 3 review. The first one's number 2. On April the 1st, a patient was treated for a tibial fracture, and on May the 15th, the patient returned complaining of pain at the site of the external fixator. The surgeon immediately returns the patient to the OR to remove the fixator. What modifier would be appended to the removal of the fixator due to pain? Well, the setting is a hospital. The event is an unplanned return to the OR within the post-operative period for a related procedure, same doctor. So you're going to be looking at your dates of service, April 1st, May 15th, that's about 6 weeks. The post-op period for most payers is 90 days. So the physician is still in that 90-day post-op period, and here he is going back to the OR. So he has to explain to the insurance company through the modifiers what happened, why they're seeing a bill again for going back to the OR. And modifier 78 is the unplanned return to the OR within the post-op period for a related procedure by the same physician. Modifiers finish the story. If you think of a case study as giving you a few lines to tell a story, the modifier allows you to finish the story, to choose a way to describe what's happened that will explain to the payer why they're seeing another charge. Let's try another one. Chapter 3, review number 6. The patient underwent a percutaneous cord needle biopsy of the right breast with the use of stereotactic guidance. Now, I'm going to walk you through this because I know we haven't done a lot of coding in the book yet, but I want to show you just how you use the index to find this, and that gives you your code. And then you're going to look at a modifier. Now, I know that when you're doing a biopsy of the right breast, the modifier you're going to need is RT, signifying it is the right breast. You have to read the code description to be sure that you're not using a modifier you don't need to use. For example, if your code description said right breast, well, then you wouldn't need to add a modifier. If your description said unilateral or bilateral, and we'll see another example of this later on, you don't want to add a modifier that says it's bilateral. So you really have to read your code description to know whether or not you will even use a modifier. So in this case, I started in the index with the main term biopsy and followed it through. I have my pathway there, and it told me that the choice would be either 19081 or 19082. So when I went to the CPT book, looked at those two codes, and I see that 19081 is the first lesion, 19082 would be each additional lesion. My case study only tells me one lesion, so I believe our code would be 19081. And if we use the right breast modifier, it would come out 19081-RT. And as I just mentioned to you, when you are filing a claim or in electronic computer-assisted coding, you're not going to see that dash. It would just say 19081-RT. Let's try another one. Patient was taken to the outpatient surgery suite for an excisional debridement of the skin that extended into the muscle. The patient was prepared for surgery, but before anesthesia was administered, the physician was called for an emergency surgery of a trauma patient, and the outpatient surgery was canceled. Assign the code assigned by the hospital. This is, again, you must read these very carefully, because if this had said assign the code assigned by the doctor, it would be different. So we're going to look at this one first, assigned by the hospital. And we're going to, here is your index, debridement muscle. And you say, why is it debridement muscle? Well, when you look at your case study there, it tells you it was a debridement of the skin that extended into the muscle. So you're going to go to the deepest layer to find the code that would work. And in this case, it is 11043, debridement, muscle and or fascia, includes epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous tissue, first 20 centimeters or less. Now, this particular case study does not tell us the square centimeters, so it really isn't a good example. This is taken from your textbook. Ideally, the documentation that you are getting from the physicians should say exactly what was excised. But I think the reason why it isn't, this didn't happen. You see where the surgery was canceled, so they didn't go to the OR. You couldn't choose it by the centimeters. And you see the modifier that would be used by the hospital is -73, discontinued outpatient procedure before administration of anesthesia, but the physician would assign 1104353, and 53 is discontinued procedure. Number 10, the surgeon performed a laparoscopic cholecystectomy. The procedure was complicated due to the fact that the patient had extensive adhesions that required over 2 hours to lysis. Assign the appropriate code with the modifier for the surgeon's service. The way procedures are paid, unless the doctor in some way communicates to the payer how much extra time this took, he is not getting paid for that extra time. So he has to have a way to explain why it took longer. First, we'll look under cholecystectomy, laparoscopic, and that tells us in the range of 47562 through 47564. And when we go back and look at those codes in the code book, 47562 does describe laparoscopy, surgical cholecystectomy. And the modifier is 22 for increased time for procedure. So the surgeon can get paid for these extra 2 hours that he spent lysing adhesions. Number 12, the surgeon performed an open reduction with internal fixation for a right fifth metatarsal fracture. I have bolded the word metatarsal with purple to make sure that you see that. The fracture, metatarsal, open treatment is how you would look at it in the CPT book. And you would only use the modifier RT for the right metatarsal. Even though you think of a metatarsal as a toe, it really isn't. It's a bone in the foot. So you can't use those F's and T's that are found on the back of the front cover for fingers and toes. You would only use the part of the body, in this case the metatarsals, and it's on the right side. I want to go over now some examples of test questions that you will see on the exam in this class, and you might also see these types of questions on the national exam. You don't see true false on the national exam. Those are all multiple choice, but just to make my point, it's the content of what might be covered on the national exam that I'm speaking to. The correct code assignment for an arthrocentesis ring finger of the left hand is 20600 LT. Well, it's a finger. It's not a metacarpal. So I think it should probably be, I think it'd be false, because I think the modifier is going to be F3 for ring finger left hand. Repeating, the F and T modifiers are for fingers and toes, not the bones of the foot, metatarsals, or the bones in the hand, metacarpals. Which of the following modifiers would be appended to a CPT code for repair of the right upper eyelid? And looking on the back of the front cover, you see E3. Code 55250-50 is reported for a bilateral vasectomy. True or false? What you would do in this case is you would look up the code 55250 and you would see exactly how that code description is written, and that would help you know how to answer this question. The answer is false. No modifier is needed because the code description for 55250 says unilateral or bilateral. And if a bilateral vasectomy was done, you don't use the -50. Here's another one. Incision and drainage of a carbuncle on the left hip is performed, and the correct code assignment is 10060.LT. This was a little bit tricky because a carbuncle on the left hip is really on the skin. It's not in a joint or some part of the body that's bilateral. So it really is false. You would not put a modifier at all on a carbuncle, incision and drainage of a carbuncle, because it's skin. You're working on the skin. You're not working on a part of the body that has definitive right and left sides. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Reminder, you can post your questions in discussion board. You can call me or you can email me. Any way that you ask a question, you must come to me saying, this is how I tried to find it. Show me the path that you tried to find. Which words you used for the main terms. Because it's only when we figure out where you're going wrong that I can help you. And by discussing it on discussion board, everybody can see the answer, because I guarantee if one person has a question, you're not the only person. So let's all learn together. Thank you so much and have a good day.